The truth is, the American people didn't want these wars. These wars poll very poorly. And most Americans don't approve of Biden right now, but they do approve of surrender. We didn't want these wars. Barack Obama won the Democratic nomination in 2008 because he was against the war in Iraq. And in 2004, Howard Dean almost got elected or got the Democratic nomination because he was against the war in Iraq from the start. But we gave it to John Kerry because he was more statesmanlike. And he, in the 2004 presidential campaign, ran as a prosecutor. He prosecuted the war in Iraq. And, you know, he almost beat Trump because by 2004, the American people had quickly soured on the war, and they knew that they had been lied to. The American people knew that the Bush administration was a bunch of lying racketeers, and Kerry almost won. So the American people, they know that these wars are wrong, and that's why Obama got elected president. Obama was in Illinois, he was a state legislator, and he came out against the invasion of Iraq. He was prescient, so people liked him. He got it right. Everybody in Washington got it wrong. He got it right. And he ran with the credentials of, I knew this war was a mistake. And of course, his war was Afghanistan. That, in his estimation, he told us that was a good war. But, you know, Afghanistan, different story. Obama promised to put an end to the forever wars. He didn't, but American people voted for him because they hoped that he would change the military. And Donald Trump got the Republican nomination because he ran against George W. Bush. Even though George W. Bush was no longer running for president, he ran against the war in Iraq. He ran against the GOP establishment, who refused to admit that Iraq was a mistake. Now, I think Trump should go to prison, but he is probably the only draft dodger, he's a draft dodger, who actually did something good for our country and our military. Well, first, the best thing he did for our military was dodge the draft. I don't think if he served in the military, Vietnam would have gone even worse. But so we should be grateful he didn't serve in Vietnam. But here's what he did that was a gift to our military. He made it settled law in America, especially in the GOP, that invading Iraq was a mistake and based on a lie. And this was a suicide mission in 2016 because Jeb Bush, George W. Bush's brother, who was governor of Florida, and so he was able to help George W. Bush steal the election from Al Gore in 2000. Jeb Bush, it was his turn. He was George's brother, and he was running. He was running in 2016, and he had a war chest as big, if not bigger, than Hillary's. It was, I think, the biggest war chest. It was a bottomless war chest. People were just pumping money into Jeb Bush's war chest like it was our war chest, America's war chest. And just like America's war chest, Jeb Bush squandered all the money. Mike Murphy was the guy who wasted that entire war chest. So, of course, he's now on MSNBC. He's been on the show, actually, Mike Murphy. Nice enough guy, but he was for the war. So just like America, Jeb Bush squandered the war chest because he didn't really know why he was there. He didn't understand the mission, and he was dishonest. He lied to the voters, just like our military, and he lied, just like our military, to himself. Jeb Bush refused to admit that his brother made a mistake. He was running for president in 2016, and he could not bring himself to admit that his brother destroyed our military, Afghanistan, and Iraq, would not level with the American people. It took him 5 tries to come up with an explanation for his position on Iraq, where we still had soldiers at the time. Obama had brought most of them home, but we still had a presence in Iraq. And Jeb Bush, this is, the establishment, could not come up with a convincing argument or position on Iraq. This is from the South Carolina GOP debate in 2016. Big debate, important. This was after Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina. You're going into the old Confederacy, which means you're hitting the pro-war Southern Republicans, who we like to think love war. Let's watch Jeb Bush and Donald Trump going at it at the 2016 South Carolina debate.
On Monday, George W. Bush will campaign in South Carolina for his brother. As you said tonight, and you've often said, the Iraq War and your opposition to it was a sign of your good judgment. In 2008, in an interview with Wolf,
by the way, he was for the war in Iraq. But the point is, he's a pretty adroit liar, Donald Trump. So he claimed that he was against the war, but he was on the Howard Stern show saying it was a good idea to invade at the time. And in his book in 2000, Trump wrote a book in 2000 saying that we should just go in there and finish off Saddam Hussein. But that doesn't, with Trump, he was selling himself as Obama on the right, that I knew this war was wrong. You should vote for me. And that's a suicide mission when you're running for the Republican nomination in 2016.
President George W. Bush's conduct of the war, you said you were surprised that Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi didn't try to impeach him. You said, quote, which personally I think would have been a wonderful thing, close quote. When you were asked what you meant by that, you said, for the war. For the war. He lied. He got us into the war with lies. Do you still believe President Bush should have been impeached?
First of all, I have to say,
that is a tough question to ask in front of a group of Republicans in South Carolina, where Jeb Bush is on the stage and you have the Bush family in the audience. That's a tough question. So I would expect somebody like Donald Trump to backtrack and be more diplomatic. Let's see.
I get along with everybody. I have business all over the world. I know so many of the people in the audience. And by the way, I'm a self-funder. I have my wife and I have my son. That's all I have. I don't have this. So let me just tell you, I get along with everybody, which is my obligation to my company, to myself, etc. Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Now, you can take it any way you want.
Please applaud. That fell on deaf ears. That audience was filled with the Republican establishment. That should have, he just said the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake. You don't talk that way to Mo Green. You don't talk that way to Jeb Bush and the Republican establishment.
It took Jeb Bush, if you remember at the beginning of his announcement, when he announced for president, took him 5 days. He went back. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Took him 5 days before his people told him what to say. And he ultimately said it was a mistake. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. obviously it was a mistake.
So
George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
but so you so
Okay, so you're running for president. You want the Republican nomination, and you're running against your own party. That is not smart.
so you still think he should be
I think
impeached?
it's my turn, isn't
You
it?
do whatever you want. You call it whatever you want. I want to tell you, they lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass
Okay,
destruction.
all right. Governor, when a member on the stage.
Oh, wow. They booed. The bell went off. This is, you can't talk that way to Republicans. And Jeb Bush, is going to set Donald Trump straight. He's going to talk about Iraq now because, you're going to say that. You're not going to get away
Gets
with it.
attacked.
I got
brother
about
gets to
5 or
respond.
6. Do I get to do it 5 or 6 times or just
being
once
nice.
responding to that? So here's the deal. I'm sick and tired of Barack Obama blaming my brother for all of the problems that he's had.
Whoa, 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 whoa. That isn't Barack Obama. That's Donald Trump. So, okay.
And frankly, I could care less about the insults that Donald Trump gives to me. It's blood sport for him. He enjoys it.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Those aren't insults. Those are facts. Those are facts. Let me play that again.
I'm glad he's happy about it. But I have
one.
Hey, all right. Governor, when a member on the stage's brother gets attacked,
I got
brother
about
gets to
5 or
respond.
6. Do I get to do it 5 or 6 times or just
I'm being
once
nice.
responding to that? So here's the deal. I'm sick and tired of Barack Obama blaming my brother for all of the problems that he's had. And frankly, I could care less about the insults that Donald Trump gives to me. It's blood sport for him. He enjoys it, and I'm glad he's happy about it.
He
But I
spent
am sick
$22
and
million
tired. I am
in
sick and
ads.
tired of him going after my family. My dad is the greatest man alive in my mind. While Donald Trump was building a reality TV show, my brother was building a security apparatus to keep us safe, and I'm proud of what he did. And he's had the gall to go
The
after
World
my
Trade
mother.
Center came
He's
down
had the
during
gall
your
to go
brother's
after
reign.
my
Remember
mother.
that.
Hold on.
Let me finish this. He's had the gall to go after my mother.
Whoa, you can't say that. He said the World Trade Center came down on your brother's watch. The World Trade 9/11 made George W. Bush. He made Rudy Giuliani. You can't say that.
I won the lottery when I was born. Family. My dad is the greatest man alive in my mind. While Donald Trump was building a reality TV show, my brother was building a security apparatus to keep us safe, and I'm proud of what he did. And he's had the gall to go
The
after
World
my
Trade
mother.
Center came
He's
down
had the
during
gall
your
to
brother's
go after
reign.
my
Remember
mother.
that.
Hold on.
Let me finish this. He's had the gall to go after my mother.
That's not keeping
Look, I
us
won
safe.
the lottery when I was born 63 years ago. Looked up and I saw my mom. My mom is the strongest woman I know.
She should
This
be
is
running.
not about my family or his family.
Okay.
This is about the South Carolina families that need someone to be a commander in chief that can lead. And I'm that person.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's like you can't talk that way to the Republicans. You're running for the Republican nomination in South Carolina. This is Lindsey Graham's state. This is you can't talk that way and expect to win in South Carolina. You saw the audience's response. They were booing Trump. That was 3 nights. Well, hang on. That was 3 nights before the election, the primary in South Carolina.
CNN projects Donald Trump, the billionaire real estate magnate, will win the South Carolina Republican primary. This is a huge win for him, coming off of New Hampshire, where he won impressively. He is the winner, according to our projection, based on actual numbers coming in, based on what's going on in the estimate of the exit polls. They're obviously thrilled over at Trump headquarters.
Wow. He won in South Carolina after getting booed in South Carolina by the audience. one would have thought he lost that debate. Donald Trump won the nomination in 2016 because he said the unsayable. The American people don't want to be treated like children. He treated in that debate, he treated the American people like adults.